The whole idea of us putting this together is we've come across a lot of businesses, which are basically, you start off as solopreneurs, and you go into business really wanting to create a level of freedom for yourself. And sort of I find a lot of people get a bit stuck as to going, how do I go from solopreneur to actually creating a business that has the ability to run without me? So we're going to talk about some strategies that we use in our business and with our clients as well. Today, there's going to be a whole lot of information, hopefully to give you guys some action items to take away. But before we get into that, I am going to start a bit of an intro. I'm Cheryl Leong, based in Sydney, Australia. I am wife and mum to two little rugrats. Rebecca knows them well. I am the Chief Freedom Officer at the Growth Hub. We have an amazing team of 70 in our team now. We started probably about two and a half years ago. Like quite a few of you here, I'm in the property space. We have a very strong property community of about 12,000 people. I managed to grow. We've grown a global team of over 70 staff. We've got people in the Philippines and Sydney, Brisbane, and in India as well. So it's, it's pretty much a borderless business. Property investor and developer and social impact entrepreneur. So everything that we do, it's always around how can we impact people that we connect with. So who's the Growth Hub? Just very briefly, we help property business owners leverage strategies, systems, and superstar virtual assistants to build profitable and scalable lifestyle businesses that can run without them. Who would like a business that runs without them? Sounds good. Cool. And you sort of go, is that possible? What do you mean runs without me? So when you start off, that seems like a bit of a long-term dream. But from this session, I'll be able to share with you how that's possible, where you can actually step away from your business, go on holiday, be able to say it's being looked after, it's actually growing. But how do we need to get to that point? So I'd love to hear, there's a little bit of engagement, a little bit of show and tell here. So I want to get you guys talking. What brings you here today? What is the thing that you saw this sort of workshop come up and you said, I really want to learn more? Feel free to pop it in the chat as well. What are you wanting to gain from this session? So to be able to focus your time, and I'll go to the next slide here, because basically what we want to achieve from this, and there may be, some of the things that you've mentioned are quite specific. So I'll make sure that I'll address them as to the types of tasks that can be delegated to someone. But the whole idea from today's session is to help you actually create a growth plan of the top 1 to 3 actions and strategies you can actually implement in your business pretty much after this session, to sort of go, okay, cool, this is the next step that I need to take. A few comments here. They are direct messages. How to leverage systems and processes. Finding that you're the bottleneck. That you're Daniel says, sometimes I'm my own worst enemy. And this is the thing. Like, we start in business doing everything ourselves, and we need to understand at what point do we need to actually look at the activities that we need to stop, to have stop, continue, start, and delegate effectively, right? How to efficiently outsource to free up more time for high value things, and enabling scaling up and building an amazing support team. And that's exactly right. So at the end of this, we will have a bit of a plan that you set out, so that you can take these real actions. So what I'm going to go through today is understanding, and to begin with is to start with the end in mind. Like, what's your end goal, right? The stuff that you're wanting to systemize and automate the business and all, that's sort of the mechanical stuff in between. But I love to understand, why are you doing this? What are you trying to achieve from building this automated, scalable business? Because there's a reason why we're starting business, right? Because it's not because it's a walk in the park. It's challenging. You don't have a paycheck at the end of every month, right? So why are we making ourselves so uncomfortable? What are we working towards? So I've got some pointers there. Freedom to choose how you spend your time, to give back to the community. I know a lot of people, often they're like, if I had, all the time in the world and I had all the funds that I have, what would you do? Right? And so many people, I'd say 95% of the people are like, I want to give back. I want to do more charitable work, that sort of thing. I want to support my family better. I want to live in the home of my dream, drive my dream car, to travel the world. Are there more why or deeper end goals? Do you agree that often we're starting businesses because we want to have some level of freedom to choose what we do, freedom how we're spending our time? And it's not necessarily just a monetary thing. Money is a part of it, absolutely, but it's really just to be able to say, hey, I can choose if I want to spend time with my kids, or actually they're quite annoying, I don't want to spend that much time with them, I want to do something else. That's me, right? But the challenge is, and if we're talking, we've got business owners here, the challenge to get to that point is that you're doing everything. You're probably doing everything at the moment, and you can't take on as much business or clients because you're maxed out, and the other part is, if you've got to your capacity, often it's like you can only take on this many projects. If you're developing, if you're a buyer's agent, it may be, you might be able to take on 2 projects, 4 projects, 4 clients in the month, that sort of thing. And you sort of go, how do I get to the next level? Right? Because I'm already maxed out with my time. So that's the other challenge, is I don't have enough time. And more so, I don't know what my next steps are. How do I get out of this sort of hamster wheel type thing? I left my job to be able to create a level of freedom, but I'm responding to emails at 2 a.m. And then I start again, and Daniel's watching video, webinars at 2 a.m, but that's dedication. That's all right. What are the next steps from here? So really the whole point is to go from this sort of solopreneur to an actual business owner. I say to a lot of people, and I find that most people sort of agree, like, business is simply a vehicle. Whether it's a vehicle where you're, where, similar to investment, similar to property, it's a vehicle to be able to create income in some way. However, to create that level of freedom, you need to build a business that's clear, has a clear vision and a purpose, with systems and great people and teams. That's basically it. Because otherwise, if you're the only person that's driving it, really you're creating another job for yourself. Because the question you need to ask is, if I stop, does the money stop as well? And if it is, then what do I need to put in place? What are the next steps that I need to put in place to actually get it to a point where it operates without me? So in terms of working out your next steps, we've come out with this sort of what we call the growth pyramid. I'd love you to have a look at this, and it effectively is the stages in business that you're at, and the areas that you need to spend the time on. Right, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and effectively down here is where you're basically starting out. You're starting out that, and it helps you. On the left is where you need to spend your time on your focus areas. Right, if you're starting out and your focus areas and where you need to spend a predominant amount of time is focusing on leads, improving your sales and your marketing. Because that's the part where you're in survival mode. You're surviving the business. You're just sort of working out, does this work? Is my idea working? Is it going to stick? That sort of thing. So really, as much as you sort of go, I need to be able to work on the operational side of the business. Yes, Yes, you do. That should be about 20% of your time. 80% is really focusing on your marketing, how you're getting yourself out there and how you're building awareness and attracting people to you. So we'll talk about that, how to actually do that and the strategies to do that. Once you get to a point where you've got some consistent level of leads and your sales and your marketing seem to be sort of working okay, it's then, and you've got some idea of, all right, this is my business, I'm getting a few rungs on the board. Early on, look at how you can delegate the low value tasks, because before you even start to build a good level of momentum, because once you get too busy, you don't have the time. So you actually need to start looking early on, once you get a few rungs on the board, to just sort of test out that your business is doing well. Not even well, it works, right? It's early on, look at how you can take off those tasks that are not actually bringing you the money, right? And you can understand by doing that is understand your numbers. What are the numbers you need to understand? And on a high level, it's understanding what your value is and putting a number on that value. So it could be $100 an hour, $200 an hour, $500 an hour, right? And that is a really quick and effective way to go, do I actually need to be doing this, or can I pay someone else to do it? And this is the start of you also building up your operational machine. I talk about starting to think about your systems and processes and all of that, right? And then the next stage is when you're getting to a point that, all right, your sales and marketing is doing well, operationally, it's starting to get into a bit of a flow. You then want to be able to start growing that team, a more sort of not necessarily a substantial team. I'm not talking about growing huge teams, right? It's around growing the right people, the right team, so that you can start to think, who do I need to plug into parts of my business to start to step back from it, and that I can focus on more important things. That's when you get to stage 2. And then stage 3 really is that point where you're starting to go, how can I really start to gear this up, that I'm thinking about how I'm actually exiting this business. And exiting doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to leave it. It's just to be able to say, I don't necessarily need to be the day-to-day person that's constantly there, right? That's what I say, start with the end in mind. We start businesses with survival mode, but in fact, the way that we get from stage 1 to stage 4 is getting really clear on what that exit strategy is. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a sale. It can be just a mere fact that I only want to spend 2 hours, an hour a day on the business, and it runs its own, runs on its own. Who can sort of look at that and say what stage they're at the moment? Where are you sort of at in your business? Are you stage 1, 2, 3, 4? I'm thinking if you're 4, probably wouldn't be spending a Thursday night here, but cool if you are, because you can always learn. Stage 1 and 2, yes, operations and higher, fabulous. And so what this means, that we can look at this and go, okay, what are the things I need to focus on? Because often I find when you're starting up in business, because there's so many things you can do in business, it's overwhelming. You go, I don't know if I should do this or should I do that. I'm like, the whole point is to be able to help you streamline and work out what to do. All right. So before we go into that, if you've got a little piece of paper around you, I'd love for you to fill this out and just scribble somewhere. I want to have a bit of a think about what your revenue is now, where you are now, and where you want to be in 12 months. Again, start with the end in mind so that we can work back and deconstruct the steps that you need to take. Okay, so what's your revenue per month at the moment? You don't have to share this with anyone. It's totally fine. It's just sort of what the revenue is per month, what your income is per month, and what you want it to be in the next 12 months, right? Be courageous to think big as well, okay? And why I say that, because your 12-month goal, you want to be thinking of a figure that is not just based on you generating that income. Okay. So what do I mean by that? So for example, if you're, say you're, you came from a corporate job or whatever that might be, and you're earning an income of, let's say $10,000 a month. If you're telling me 12 months from now, you want to be earning $10,000 a month, I will do a virtual reach out through the video and give you a bit of a smack around, because that's because that's a scarcity mindset. And when I say a scarcity mindset, it's thinking that you are still the only person that's going to be generating that amount, right? I do want you to think big, to be able to say 12 months from now, this is the income that I want. Still make it realistic. Might not be $1 million, could be $1 million, but think about, if I had a team, what could I generate in 12 months? Then note down the number of deals or sales, if you're talking about sales, or whichever number of clients per month that you have now and that you want in 12 months. I work more on the revenue side of things as opposed to number of deals and clients, but then again, depending on your business, you've got different metrics as well. So here's the more softy stuff that I want you to keep track of. How many hours per week are you spending on your business right now? How many hours per week are you spending on your business? So really, like, have a think. Are you up at 6 a.m. and working till 8 at night? Calculate how many hours, right? 12 months. I do not want you, Daniel, to be waking up at 6 a.m. and working till, crazy hours at night. You need to be able to go, I'm working towards something, because constantly being in the hustle mode isn't good for you either. We often, as business owners, also lose track that we're in business. We constantly think we need to be busy. We constantly need to be in the hustle. But we also lose track of the goal that we built businesses for, is to create that level of freedom. So you want to have a goal to be able to say 12 months from now, maybe if I'm still starting up my business, it's still going to be fairly busy, but it doesn't mean that you need to be, because if you're able to grow a team, you are able to delegate and outsource a lot of that stuff as well. So have a think, if you still want to work 8 hours a day, 6, 4, work towards something. And the role that you play. So what I mean by this, the role that you play, is whether at the moment you're the main driver of the income, which probably a lot of you are now. And 12 months from now, do you want to still be the main person, or do you want to be the person that just focuses on bringing in clients? So I'll give you an example. For me, the role that I play now is still, because my team's sort of, fairly established. I've gone from being the only person in the business. The role that I was playing was CEO, Chief Everything Officer, not the other glamorous CEO, to I'm moving to the point where I can be visionary. I can focus on the strategy side of things, because if the other operational things, if I'm still stuck in the operational side of things, which I still am as well, it actually stops me from thinking more broadly and dreaming and strategizing and being more visionary. So think about that. You've got to start to envision the type of team that you want to build. Again, it doesn't need to be a big team. It's just having someone that's not just you. Even if it's 2 other people, 1 other person, they like to do operational stuff, get them to do that. So the role that you're going to play in your business. Family time, right? Family time's super, super, super important. Whatever that means for you, your time as well. How much time are you actually spending on yourself? Richard, I know you do a lot of, a lot of that mindfulness side of things, exercising. That's a really important part of your success in your business, because if you're constantly spending 12 hours straight on your business, right, that's not healthy either, right? having a successful business is also having that self-awareness about balancing it all, and the impact. Why I put in impact, and again, that's a little bit sort of fluffy. Like at the moment, like what sort of impact in terms of how you're giving back in some way or form? Do you want to give back more? What sort of impact is that in your community, to the people that you love, your family? So are we all sort of done with that? Excellent. Now we're going to start looking at what are the strategies to be able to take. And we created this model at the Growth Hub called the growth model. You notice I use grow and growth a lot. And why? I sat down in the early days to sort of go, okay, what is it that I want to really do and bring value to business owners? And we started off, the Growth Hub started off as your property VA. It was purely around helping business owners, sort of matching them up with virtual assistants. And it made a huge difference in my life when I started business. It was life-changing. I went, it's going to be the same for other people. But what we found, and where the wheels started to get a little bit shaky, was like, even though I had, we had business owners that might have a virtual champion, if they didn't have the right systems in place, if they didn't have the right processes in place, there was no direction. And so it was really hard for people to implement, whether they were virtual assistants or someone in the team. And it affected performance. It affected performance and output. And that's why we start to implement and bring in the systems part of the business to help people identify their workflows and their systems and their processes, to be able to go combine systems and people they can actually implement. But again, then the other part we also realized was this point of going stage one. Like a few people here, they're in stage one. It was the marketing side, getting really clear about why I'm doing this business. The why is really powerful, because again, I go back, business is challenging at the best of times. If your why is not big enough, you will give up. It is so much easier to be able to go, I'm going to go back to whatever pays the bills. Leroy's having a bit of a smirk there going, yeah, right. Because, it's, you sort of go, I spend so much time, I might not get the results. Yes, I get some wins, but is it easier to be more predictable? And the truth is we will be challenged in that way. And that's why you've got to have a really strong vision and why. And that's why I refer to the strategy, systems, and talent as your head, your heart, and your hands. Like your business, that is the head, the mindset stuff, like getting really clear on my vision, my strategy, and where I'm heading towards. Your heart is the systems that runs the operational heart of your business. You've got to have that in place. And your hands are your people, right? Your people that actually do the execution. And that's where the talent. So if you're looking at, for those of you who identified where you were on that growth pyramid, whether you're stage one, stage two, I'm going to break it down. You can see here, I've put the little red numbers here so you can identify where you need to start focusing on as a priority. Doesn't mean you don't do the other two, but I'm saying spend most of your time, 80% on your time with this side of things. You can see my little cursor, right? So for the next sort of hour or so, I'm going to dive through each of these segments to be able to identify what the strategies are for each of these. And feel free at any time, if you've got any questions, to just pop it in the chat or just unmute yourself. Before we dive in, does anyone have any questions about the growth model? Yeah. Cool. Alrighty. So have that sort of pictured in your head. And I'm going to start off with stage one in terms of strategy. And what the challenge is here for a lot of people is they have the unclear direction and strategy. And what that means is that they're at the point where they're saying, I need more clients and deals, and that looks like salsa. should be sales. I need more salsa in my life. I don't know how to market myself or my business. How do I stand out? I get the question all the time. How do I get more leads, Cheryl? How do I bring more leads into my business? And I had a great call with a real estate agent today. He says, Cheryl, how do I stand out in the industry? I'm a real estate agent in Southwest Sydney. There's thousands of real estate agents. So I sat down with him for a while, and what I, this is what I hear very often is, how are you standing out in the market? In a crowded market, even think like, do you dress like everyone? Do you talk like everyone? Is your message the same as everyone else? Because if it is, then you're just going to blend in like the rest of everyone, right? Who do you need to be, and who do you need to be the go-to for people to sort of go, oh, this, if it's Leroy, yeah, Brisbane development sites, he's the guy. That's the sort of person that you want to be known as, right? And then Richard's doing stuff in Newcastle, like you want to be that go-to, but how do you establish that? So that's the challenge a lot of business owners have, is that they don't really know where they sit. And then I don't know what my next steps are for my business to grow. This session will hopefully provide a little bit of direction there. And the next part is, I know what my end goal is, but I don't know the pieces to bring it together. Does that make sense? Like, I know I want to create this, but what are the steps to get there? Right. So what we need to be able to do is, back to the growth model, is we talk about a clear vision. Like, are your personal and business goals aligned? And when I say personal and business goals, why that's important, because you might say, my business goals are, I want to make $1 million in revenue in the next, 2 years or whatever. But your personal goal might be, you sort of go, oh, I want to pay myself 100,000. And you sort of go, all right, that's a lot of revenue, and you're paying yourself 100 grand. Does that sort of align? Does that align? You know what I mean? So one of the things, if you haven't gone through that, to actually sort of go, does my business and personal life actually come together? Because that's really, really a big part of driving it forward. Set out your 10-year goal and begin with the end in mind. It can be 5 years if 10 years is too far, but the whole point is to be able to work backwards. If you can reverse engineer, that's what I mean, reverse engineer where you want to be. If your 10 year is to be on the Bahamas every quarter, like, sipping margaritas, whatever, how do I get there? And you've got to actually say, 10 years from now, this is my thing. Like, I have the ability and the freedom to be able to travel as often as I can, but what do I need to be able to do that? And it allows you to break it down a lot easier. You want to write down what success looks and feels like. Not just looks like, feels like. And why do I say feels like? Because everything that we do is on emotion. I was speaking to my husband the other day about cars, because he loves cars. And I had this revelation in my head as I was driving, and this Toyota slogan came out, and it was like, oh, what a feeling, Toyota. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's not about the car, it's about the feeling Toyota gives you. So I was like, and I went, oh, that's interesting. And I said, right, people that drive Maseratis or, fast Lamborghinis, what is the feeling that they get? They get the feeling of power. They get the feeling of, status. It's about the feeling, right? So what does success look like for you? Because what is the feeling that you want to attach that image here to that feeling here? Because again, the more that your subconscious is able to gel with what you're trying to achieve here with here, everything then starts to be pull into place. So it's really important that if you haven't already done so, is to write down what success looks and feels like for you. And then if you're into meditation and all that, actually visualize it and feel it in here. Rich, do you do that as part of your meditation, visualization type things?
Not to the extent I should, Cheryl.
Okay. I know that you're very much into the positivity and all of that. Yeah. So try that, because I think that has been for me one of the biggest biggest changing points in the things that happen in my life. And actually feeling that emotional connection is really, really important. Again, we go about why is it important to you to achieve that? Why are you going through all the challenges? And this part's really important, is what's getting in your way. What's getting in your way? What are those limiting beliefs that are stopping you from obtaining that? Again, if there's anyone here that would like to share, like what do you realize? And this comes down to self-awareness, right? Because is there a fear of success? Is there a fear that if your business does so well, are you going to leave people behind as well? That's a valid fear. People go through that. Right? What do you actually need to be aware to put aside so that you can actually step into the greatest version of yourself to obtain your vision? And then even at the size, the next part is creating your business's vision, mission, and values. And admittedly, I didn't realize how powerful this was until I started to grow a team. Because my team, if I talk to my team and the people that have been with us a long time or have left and returned, is that they believe in the vision. That is the most powerful thing, because when you have people who are aligned with your vision, they are more motivated to move forward. They are motivated. They're not there just for the income. It helps to have good income and helps to be motivated as well. So the combination is really good. However, just be really clear as what do you value as a person and as a business, because you will attract that sort of person to work in your team. Cool. Any questions about vision? And if anyone wants to share what's your vision of your business, feel free to pop it in the chat. What's your vision? Do you have a vision? And if not, maybe spend some time thinking about what that is as well. That's a little homework piece. So the next part of the growth model and strategy is, and this all comes down to that marketing part. So whoever's in sort of stage one, this is part of marketing, positioning, be the magnet. So we put together this magnet framework, and I call it the magnet framework. Is what I've realized with marketing, so much of it is around building a personal brand. It's building a personal brand before you build your business's brand, because people are attracted to people. And you can utilize this magnet framework with, and I'll go through what that is, to work out the type of marketing and where you position yourself in the market. So the number one thing is M. It's the mindset shift. So much, again, 80% of business is mindset. Why do I talk about the mindset? Because there's so many things that hold us back from marketing ourselves. Number one, like, imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? What if, people are going to realize I'm a fraud? I don't really know everything. So many people. Two, like, I don't want to be in front of video. I'm terrible at video. I don't want to do video but I know, Leroy, you were so opposed to video, and then you start to put stuff out there and people started engaging, right? And so you realize, like, video is so powerful. So, what are the things that you're recognizing that's actually stopping you from stepping out and building a personal brand? I know people also say, no, I'm not that sort of salesy, showy offy person that goes on social media and all that. They're just sort of showing off. Right? Fear of failure. What if I put myself out there and I fail, and is everyone going to criticize me, laugh at me, whatever that might be? One of the big things. So I was absolutely petrified of public speaking many years ago. I couldn't even attend a Toastmasters event because I was so scared. But I realized, and this is the biggest thing for me, the biggest shift for me was realizing that I needed to put my ego away. And when I say my ego, I'm not talking about bragging ego, that fear away, because I knew that I had a bigger purpose, and I need that purpose requires me to actually be seen, and so that people can hear that. If you have a purpose and your purpose is to be able to help others, the fact that you're not putting yourself out there is actually a disservice to them. You get what I mean there? That the fact that they don't know that you can actually help them is a disservice, because they can't find you. Right? And so it's actually putting aside any of that fear, any of that doubt, any of that, oh my goodness, is my hair okay? Like, you don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. And again, as a woman, you sort of go, I have no makeup, my hair is terrible, whatever that might be. You actually have to realize it's not about you. It's not about you at all. It's about the message that you have and the value that you're bringing. So that mindset thing, if you can address that as the very first thing to be able to help you step into the best version of yourself, because being the best version of yourself is what's going to be the thing that attracts people, which is how are you attracting people? How are people aware of what it is that you do? Because if you're keeping it all inside and you're too afraid to share it, no one knows how you can help them. And so again, it's around, how are you creating awareness? What are the platforms that you're using to be able to communicate with your audience? The next part is giving consistently. Giving consistently is about adding value to people's lives. It's not about sales. It's around having people see the value that you bring and learning from you, from the content that you're providing to them. They're learning your journey as well. And it's okay if it's you sharing your journey, because people are learning in some way or form. And early on, I was hesitant to put stuff on Facebook about the stuff that I have about my, stuff with parenting, stuff with the business, the challenges, like being really vulnerable. But then I realized when I did, like, people would really resonate with it. Like the part when I sort of go, oh, I'm not sure if I'm going to press the send button. That's the one where people reach out and there'll be direct messages that say, hey, that really resonated with me. Thank you. I needed that message. And so you never know who you will touch out there. You don't realize that you only need to resonate with one person to make a difference in your message. You're not trying to get 5,000 fans. That's not the point. You do great. That's fantastic as well. But the point is that if you can make a difference in one person's life, that's what gets you out of that comfort zone. So consistently give. And N is niche. So in marketing, everyone talks about niche. But when we start off, we're so afraid to niche because we're missing this huge market. What if I can serve everyone? I can serve everyone. Everyone, if it's developers, if it's clients that are investors or whatever, I can serve them all. But the truth is, in a crowded market, people have so much choice. And if you don't have a niche and you aren't able to speak their language, your message will get lost with everyone else. So where you need to sit down and just understand is the types of people and markets and industries that you're drawn to, right? So say, for example, as a buyer's agent, there you can choose to focus on investors, developers, owner occupiers, and all. But you might say, I can do it all, right? Which you probably can. You probably have the skills to do. However, when people think of buying something, their heads are like, I'm so confused. I actually don't know what this person does. But if you're saying you focus on and you specialize in commercial, buying commercial property for doctors, who are the doctors going to go to when they're looking to buy investment properties? The person who understands the doctors. Even culturally, like the gentleman that I was speaking to today, he's Nepalese, and where do all his clients come from? 95%, because he was asking me, which market should I target? And I said, who's most of your buyers now? He goes, oh, it's the Nepalese community. What percentage? 98%. And that's your low-hanging fruit, right? So look at who's around you and the people and the circles that you hang around with to sort of work out, actually, this is my niche. I really understand this market. And don't be and don't be afraid to actually niche, because it means that your message, your language, everything that you're saying really resonates with them. And that's why, to a certain extent, we talk to property businesses. Not that we can't service other businesses. I understand the pain points for property people, developers, investors, what the market's doing. Like we're able to solve the problems for property businesses, right? And so the language and the messaging is all about property businesses, people, growth, that sort of thing. And then that leads on to the next one, being an expert. Because once you start focusing on your niche and you know all their pain points, all their challenges, and the solutions that you can provide for them, you become the expert. And being the expert, you are then the person that they go to. How do you establish yourself as the expert? Because every client is looking for a solution, and they're looking for the best person to provide that. Establishing yourself, giving that niche, you understand their pain points. And I go back to that, we have an accountant who's focused on the property space, but what we were able to peel back with him was that his niche was, again, a cultural community, but then it was the doctors, the engineers, the IT professionals in that space. So like the doctors earning a heap amount of money, but not having the time or the knowledge to how to invest in property, for example. But then he can help them decipher and pave a way in their journey to be able to get there. And then the last bit, without a doubt, is around building trust. The more that you are able to position yourself as the expert in your niche, then the trust just gradually, very sort of, organically becomes ingrained in the people that you're talking to. So if you are able to implement all of these, you really become the magnet for your ideal clients. Obviously, you need to understand who your ideal clients are, which comes down to your niche. But then you become more targeted and focused in your marketing efforts. Does anyone have any questions around that or comments? Has it sort of triggered some thoughts around niching or the areas that you want to maybe target and focus on? Feel free to share as well. Better to be a specialist in your market than be a general practitioner. Yes. And I find for a lot of people, that part's probably one of the biggest struggles, because when you start out, you're like, I just need to get some money. I need to get clients. Can I just, like, everyone, I can do everything. but that your message gets lost, and it's really hard. And we've gone through this with a few people where they're like, I do everything, but that it was only when they were able to say, this is what I do, and real conviction towards that, that's when people start to come. So the next part, once you've got your vision, you've got your position, you can execute, where you can work out the channels where your ideal client hangs out, where your niche hangs out. When I look at developers, say if you're building high-end developments, that's going to be part of your brand, right? And so with developers, I do recommend that you do have your niche in terms of, I build in the eastern suburbs or whichever, because of Sydney, because there's a certain level of, say, status or quality that people expect out of that. Whereas if you're the townhouse developer, for example, again, in a market where it's a bit more crowded, where say it might be the townhouse market or whichever, people are like your buyer, your end buyer, who, if it's an owner occupier, will be looking for a level of quality, and they will be wondering who the builder is. Do they have a good track record? Investors, if it's investor stock, it's a little bit different, where I feel that it is more around building a level of trust with your investors. So it goes both ways. As a developer, you've got to be able to, market yourself to your investors, and then in terms of marketing your end product, it's more area specific. So for your investors, it's going to be that level of trust and credibility. They want to be able to see you out there, because we all know people stalk. Everyone goes, "Oh, who's this? What have they done? Are they a scheming, money hungry developer that doesn't pay anyone back?" No, but if you're able to say, this is my, track record, I've done 2, 5, 10 projects, it just builds up that trust. Going back to magnet, it's that trust. Again, going back to magnet, I'm the expert in property development. Doesn't necessarily need to be the specific type of product, but it could be, say, niche. I know quite a few developers that are very niched in the rooming house, co-living, boarding house space. That's their niche. You can use this to any sort of business, right? So pick the channels where your niche hangs out. Start with organic marketing, because that is the easiest, cheapest, freest way to market. I don't recommend paid marketing right at the very start of your journey, because your messaging's not there. You haven't built a brand. People can't stalk you. Your stalkability, you have low stalkability. You want to have high stalkability. So if someone puts your name in Google, which they do, people do that, they want to see what it is that you do, right? We all do it. They put your name in Facebook. What does this person do? And is it someone that I resonate with? It's always around, oh, what do they do? Oh, they're into fishing, cars, whatever, property. Oh, they're a property person. Cool. There's that everyone's always looking for some level of connection, in some way or form. Execution. Video is number one. If you're not doing video of some sort, or at very least doing some sort of posting, you are not being found. People can't see you. You won't exist in marketing land. And so it's very hard for you to build yourself out as the magnet. Consistency is key. So if you're doing video or you're doing any sort of post, right, like post once to begin with, once a week or twice a week, it's totally fine. It's just a matter of consistently being able to be seen in some way or form. You don't have to go crazy. But if you think about it, if you're doing one video a week, how many weeks are there in a year? 52. If someone's gone back to look at your videos, and they've got 50 videos that they can watch one after the other because they got nothing better to do. They've got 50 pieces of content of yours to absorb. So do you think that they're going to think that you're the expert in that field by the end of it? I'd say it's a big yes. You know, they sort of go, oh, they either think you're an expert or you're really passionate and you're getting there. But they're seeing that you're building that level of trust. There's this person who's sharing their journey. They're sharing the ups and the downs as well. So that's totally fine. It doesn't need to be polished. It doesn't need to mean that you know all the answers. It's taking people on a journey. And in terms of execution, focus on 1 to 3 channels to begin with at max. Right? Social media is still very, very powerful. You can do it at the comfort of your own home. You post stuff up, it sits there, it gets distributed very, very easily. Networking, I cannot say whether it's online or in person, it's probably one of the most powerful tools that you can do. And I'd say for a lot of people here, I've met through some sort of networking in some way, because you're building those social connections. Then you can do stuff like email marketing if you're great, you're good at writing content. You can do blogs, so email marketing or blogs as well. And then workshops or seminars similar to this. How can you educate your target audience about the things that they might not know very much about? So for example, I did a video with Richard a few weeks ago about NDIS property, SDA property. It's, it was having other people learn about that space that they don't know about. Again, around going back to Magnet, how are we building that trust and establishing ourselves as the expert? And so, think now, going back to your niche, where do they hang out and what sort of content do they absorb and how do they absorb it? Where do I need to be? What are the 3 main channels I need to be on? And that's strategy. Before we move on to systems, does anyone have anything to share from your takeaways on that section? That's the marketing part for those of you who are looking to build your leads, sales, and marketing machine. Hopefully you've been able to take away a few things out of there as well. Cool. So now we're going to look at systems. This is the part, how do we create the level of systems and processes in our business? Because the challenge is that everything is in my head. I don't have time to train anyone. That's probably one of the biggest things that people sort of fear. They're like, oh my goodness, I'm just too busy. I'm the bottleneck. Someone else said that earlier. People keep asking me how to do things. And because it takes longer for me to explain it to someone, I might as well do it myself. How many times have we said that? Yes, I confess, I do that. My team are all over the place. Rain's having a laugh at me because she experiences this all the time. Thankfully, my team are not, because they're organized, but I am all over the place. And so what do we need to do to be able to address all of these? Right, delivery, strategy, and systems. So strategy, we talked about the marketing side of things, and systems equals clear structure. So what do I mean? What do I mean by that? So if you have a clear strategy of what your business is, and say in terms of marketing and all of that, and you sort of envisage, my business starts off with marketing. So what you want to actually do is go marketing, sales, onboarding, fulfillment. You start to work out in your mind how your business flows and the client journey. You want to draw out the step-by-step workflow of how your business operates, right? We know, like, you instinctively do things about your business. You don't even realize there's actually a flow, but there is, right? But because you do it day in and day out, it's sort of easy for you to do so. However, if you plugged in someone else, my question is, will that other person know how things are done? If it's a no, would it be helpful if they were able to see, oh, right, visually, this is how it looks like. Oh, I'm here. This is what I'm meant to look after. So determine if that project or task that you're doing is repetitive and can be automated by technology or people. Right? Automation doesn't always have to be technology. Automation can be someone else as well. I give the example. I do a webinar every Tuesday night called The Business of Property. And my guest yesterday, it was quite sweet. He was like, oh my goodness, I had a call with you for half an hour and then everything else was set up by your team. He goes, you didn't have to touch anything. I said, yeah, I just turn up. And so that's automation as well. There is some level of technology automation, but the rest of it is, if you've got the process in place, you press the button, people are able to carry that out. And so how much time has that freed me up to be able to focus on other things? Delivery is also setting clear expectations of what success looks like. What does success looks like? Again, your task, you may have done that a million times, but if you're going to plug someone in, it's really important that they understand what the end goal is. What does, how do we get to this point? What does success look like and what does completion look like? And creating a habit of putting together your systems and processes, writing down your processes. Create a habit of creating SMPs. That's your systems and processes. It takes it. You might have to slow down to speed up, but what I mean is that every time you're doing something, take a bit of time to go, am I going to repeat this again? Yes. Let me process that. Write it down. If something in your business needs to be done more than once, it should be systemized. Yes. If it's going to be done more than twice, yes. Even templates of emails, like create a checklist. If I'm going to do this, like these are all, like start to think of your business in micro processes, micro steps. Plug in someone. It does take a little bit of time and commitment to do that at the start, but you've got to slow down to speed up. Before your business gets to a point where you don't have the time to do so, or you don't have someone to do it for you or with you, but you really want to start to do that, because imagine if you put someone in that place, in that position to do it, and they're doing that. How much has it freed you up to be able to focus on other things? Right. And then create your process library. So start to go, when you create your workflow, and I'll talk you through this now. So with most businesses, this is sort of the core, I'd say the general structure in terms of the main bits of your business. If you're just a solopreneur at the moment, you probably think, what? It's only just me. It's all operations, right? But the truth is, you got to start thinking of your future team, breaking it down into, yeah, I do some level of marketing. I'm going to break that down. Put that into little segments and start to go, all right, what am I doing with marketing? What are the channels that I'm doing my marketing? Facebook, networking, who am I marketing to? So Juliet, if you're talking about investors in developments, how am I marketing myself in that sense? Am I networking? How, if I'm networking, how do I ensure that I'm capturing people in my CRM, and how do I consistently keep in touch with them? Sales channel and sales, we also go, oh, I'm not a salesperson, but we do sales in some way or form. If you're wanting someone to buy into your service or product, you're going to have to do some level of sales. But we're not talking about pushy sales. We're talking about natural selling, actually providing a solution to their problem. So you've got to break that down again. Like from a sales perspective, what am I doing in terms of, do I take people through a discovery call? I do it, after a discovery call, is there a template that I have a script? After discovery call, am I taking them through another call? It's a strategy call. What does that look like? Each of those things, each of those steps are micro processes in your business. And the more that you're able to dive in and create them, the more you are able to scale more seamlessly and effectively. It doesn't need to be perfect, progress over perfection, but the fact is that you want to start looking at your business as an organization that you're trying to fill in the gaps. So you might be in operations at the moment, but you want to start thinking of where are the parts that I need to start building it out. Capture. It's stage 2, capture. I've brought in my my prospects, my new clients. How am I capturing my leads and my tasks? So leads are the people who are potential clients, and tasks are how am I actually executing the role that I'm doing. So like project management, what are the steps that I actually need to take my client to go from entry to exit or repeating. Set up at very least a basic task management tool like ClickUp. If your business has if your business doesn't have a task management tool, definitely there are free ones, invest in one. It doesn't need to be complicated. It just allows you to brain dump how your business flows in a task management so you can keep track of things. Remember, you're not going to always have a small handful of clients. You may want to be able to grow it to a point where you've got lots of clients. How are you going to keep on top of that? You don't want that all to be in your brain. My 6-year-old daughter is in sales and her best customer. Oh, daddy's little girl. She's got you wrapped around her finger. Kids are the best in sales and hostage negotiations. I've learned my sales from my children because negotiating with them is like being in a hostage situation. And I figured if I can get out of that, I've done pretty well. So capturing, task management tool, ClickUp, Asana, Monday, whatever it is that works for you. Everyone, they're generally very, very similar, but you want to be able to plonk what it is that you do in there. Use your SOPs, so your systems and processes, to create those checklists and tasks. You're doing everything repeatedly. Start to think of it to go, how can I create a level of structure in a checklist or a template that I can use again and again and again. Also, if you're dealing with a higher volume of clients, set up a client relationship management tool for marketing and communications. So what do I mean by CRM? CRM is like when you're doing email marketing or you're creating landing pages. If you might have received an email about this through an email, and that was being sent out through a client relationship management tool. So if you find that you're needing to send out bulk emails to a mailing list, you can start off with MailChimp. At very, very least, MailChimp's quite simple. It's a very basic CRM, and it does the job. But when you get to a point where you want to take your clients on a journey, you might want to look at doing, something like Active Campaign or whichever. But at the start of your business, you want to just have simple tools in place, and you can always upgrade from there. But it's really what CRMs allow you to do is you can actually identify where your prospects are on your on their journey. Are they someone that's downloaded something twice? Are they someone that has never downloaded anything at all? You can get a little bit of an idea of who's actually been interested in your product or service. And you want to capture all the information of your clients and prospects, because that is where the gold is. Okay, automate. Can a project or task run without you? Are the steps and processes clearly set out so that people know exactly what to do? We go back. All this part about systems is around, and it'll repeat again and again because that's what systems is. It's about repetition. How can you make sure and ensure that if someone was going to complete the task that you're doing, that they can do it as well? So set it out in your task so that you can automate. I gave the example of the Facebook Live, and create templates to reduce human error. Emails are a great example of that. We're so used to writing emails, but we don't have to write every single email. Use templates and tweak them. Welcome emails, it's client onboarding emails, it's getting information from your client, all of those can be templated. Over to stage 3. So 3 of the growth model, if you recall, on the left, it's around your superstars and talents. Superstars, what's the challenge? So we've got our marketing machine going, we've got our operational heart pumping along. We've got to actually make sure that we've got the right people to be actually pulling this all together. Because if you recall, part of the growth model, if these are all working well together, that body of yours, that business of yours can grow and scale. So the challenge is with superstars is that you're working in the business now, right? You're the CEO, you're the chief everything officer. You don't have enough time. You're doing everything. I spend too much time on low value tasks. And this part is I can't find good people. My team are not performing. So how do we resolve this? Number one is attracting people that align in your vision, mission, and goals. If you recall, we talked about vision at the top. This is where these two come together. If you're able to communicate and share and be really clear about what that is, you're going to attract people that are aligned to that. And it's the type of people that are aligned to that, they're going to be ideal to add to your team. I'm going to do another share. We early on in the year, I thought in my mind, actually, the next person I need in my team is like a BDM, my business development manager. But I wanted to be someone who, one, really understood business and had a passion for property, but then had also this heart to be able to help people and give back and grow. Because that's a really part, like for our business, we really value relationships and empowering and growing with people as well. And what actually happened is because I knew in my mind the type of person and actually even their type of personality, I was actually recommended a lady out of the blue. I hadn't even mentioned it to anyone, but it was my business coach who said, "Hey, by the way, I think you should meet this lady because she's looking for some work at the moment. And for some reason, I think she'll be a great fit, but I don't even know if you're looking for anyone." So I hadn't even put it out there at that point. It was all in my head that I was like, the right person will be this type of person and they'll be responsible for this. And I could imagine them, how they would speak to clients, how they would interact with the rest of the team. Like attracting the right people is again being really aligned with what that looks and feels like. What does success feel like in that role? And then the next part is, I mean, we talk about outsourcing and all. I'm I'm need I'm not fixated on everything being remote. There are going to be instances that definitely you need to have someone on the ground, and that needs to be a face-to-face person. However, you may be surprised once you sort of sit down and go, what are the roles and responsibilities and the tasks that people need to do? Sit down and look at it to understand whether it can be a role that is remote or it needs to be face to face. COVID was sort of a blessing in disguise because I think we all realized there were so many roles and tasks that we could do remotely that we didn't have to be at an office. So think about what those roles and responsibilities are, what those tasks are. And then the next part is, do I need it to be someone that's local in Australia? Or can it be that if I've got the right systems and processes, that someone, you know, remotely overseas can do? And obviously that's what the growth, the growth hubs model is. Like all our businesses have remote staff, but they also have local staff. So we have a lot of clients who have a hybrid model, and it's totally it works. It works really, really, really well. Again, if you've got the right systems and processes in place. And creating your ideal org chart. This is an example of what our org chart, and you might even sort of look at it and go, oh, this is something that I can apply. if you'll notice here, most people sort of think that you need to be here right in the middle, right? But if you notice, I've actually got someone called an integrator. They're not an interrogator. They're not someone that I send out to negotiate with people. No, they're an integrator. So what does an integrator mean? It's actually the person who's almost like an operations manager or general manager that eventually is the person that looks after all the other parts of your business. So you're here at the moment. You've got to look at who I need to plug in to my business. Do I need an EA to begin with to help me get on to my emails, my calendar, all of that? I've got my extraordinary EA Jet here. And many of you have probably, if you've interacted with me, you might have met Jet as well. She's the calendar ninja. She's the gatekeeper. So when I first started, it was me and an EA. Eventually, my EA moved on to become my person who is in client success, so looks after our clients. So you can always grow out your business. It's more so understanding which part of your business requires a resource to be in, and what does that look like, and building out that success profile. Engage. People that feel valued are engaged and productive. So even with and this is applies to whether someone is in your business or someone who is outsourced. With your remote team, right, you've still got to be able to have them feel that they are part of your business, that they're not sort of just a separate entity. And how do you do that, right? Is to match skills and individuals to the specific task. Why I put this out there is particularly when we talk about outsourcing, I think there's this misconceived notion that if I have a virtual assistant, that they're going to be able to take off everything off my shoulders. They can do social media, they can do emails management, they can look after the clients. Everything that I've been doing, I can have someone do. And no, you can find unicorns once in a while, but the truth, just like us, any of us, we have specific things that we're good at. We have specific roles that we're skilled in. We have specific tasks that we're better at. So for example, someone who is very detail orientated is not necessarily going to be fantastic at a more creative role, like if it was marketing. Not saying that that is impossible, because I know our marketing coordinator, Rain, is detailed, but she's also creative. But I wouldn't be able to say necessarily that they'll be a great person at client interactions either. So it's identifying where they're good at and not just plugging people into spots because you need them filled just for the sake of it. You need to have the right people that feel that they're able to exercise the things they're passionate about and that they're good at. Engage them, make your team feel appreciated. Like, reach out to them, say, hey, this is, thanks for the great job. I really appreciate you looking after me. I appreciate you being here at such a late time, or whatever that might be. Because the more that your team like you, they're going to want to keep working with you. And touch base often and early. And when I say early, it's when someone's done something, like just reach out to say, hey, that was really great work. Do you have any feedback for me? Have them feel that they're part of that decision-making process, and they're part of you improving your business as well. And then the last bit is develop. How do you recognize your team and their individual goals and their dreams? You've got goals and dreams for yourself and your business, but so are the people in your team. And this is, again, a really, really powerful tool, because the more that you're able to uplift them, the more that you're able to grow your business as well. Because then if, say, for example, their goal is to be, I had a discussion with someone today, their goal is to be a mentor. So I go, okay, this is great. They want to be a mentor. Where can I put them in my business to be able to mentor people? Because if they're mentoring people, that means they're bringing other people up. That means the business is going to, they're going to have better output. They're going to be able to support our clients better. So spend time with your team to understand what their interests, their passions, and where you can support them in their growth to develop them, to allow for those growth opportunities, because that's going to keep them with your team for much longer. And then offer that level of flexibility as well. So that wraps up all the different parts of the growth strategy that you can implement. So, if you look at it again, if your challenge, looking at the growth model, is your challenge an unclear marketing strategy? We talked about stage 1. Or is your challenge the lack of systems and structure? Or is your challenge, I'm just working in the business? Then you're able to identify, okay, I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time around either strategy, my systems, or talent, or a mix of all three, really. So before I move on to the next, have a bit of a think. What is the number one challenge that I want to solve in the next 90 days? And then we'll talk about what are the three action items. I'd love for you to share with me, having gone through that, if you would love to share, what's that challenge that you want to solve in the next 90 days? Is it that you're not quite sure how to generate more leads, for example? Go slow to move faster. Yes. Yes. And that's challenging because we're so used to like hustle, 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 busy, busy. And I model out my systems, decisions on what can be automated, then build great systems and processes with training videos and templates. Yes, that's incredible. Because what will be the impact of you doing that, Juliet? I'd love to understand what will be the impact. CEO and CFO, chief every effing thing officer. Yeah. Yes, we maybe need to like, what's in the 90 days? What in the next 90 days? What do you want to do to be able to get out of that role? If that's what you want to do, is that your main challenge right now? And if so, who do you need to put in place to help you move out of there? If it's repeatable, it's teachable. Train and equip others to achieve it, not just me. Absolutely. So what do we need to be able to do that? Okay, let's start to pick up the 3 strategies or actions. What is the one thing you need to do differently to achieve your goal? We're going to talk to our results table. So if you go back to the results table that you were writing on before, early in the piece, where it was the now and 12 months, right? What is the number one thing that you're going to do differently to achieve that goal? Whatever that goal is. And if you're not doing it at the moment, what's the number one thing to do? And then have a think, what is stopping you or could stop you from executing these strategies or actions? What could be stopping you? Have a clear awareness of that. Is it you? Is it your own sort of fear? Is it possibly, and talk about things that you sort of go, oh, I'm going to be traveling, or I'm going to be moving. I'm going to be, I've got young kids. And why I want you to think about that, because once you're aware of it, what you can actually look at it is to be honest as to whether they are actually excuses or they're actually real things. Because often we put these barriers in place because we think they're sort of, they are legitimate, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the priorities. These things are, and these hurdles are always going to be there. It's how do we prioritize how we're spending our time, or how do we work around that? Because it's around solutions as well. I thought for a long time, like my kids were getting in the way of me doing my stuff. But I realized as well that was my excuse, sort of almost like self-sabotage, right? Because I could sort of blame it on them, I couldn't take responsibility that I could actually do something. I could actually come up with a solution. So have a think, what's the number one thing you're going to do differently? And then have the awareness of what could be stopping you from doing that. And actually the third part is having a think about whether it's in fact an excuse or you're actually going to come up with a solution to get over that. And this is where it all comes together, helping you create your growth plan. So I love as well, if you've got your piece of paper, to sort of note this down. This is your plan that you can stick up on your wall or whichever. I want you to fill this out. So I am currently, whatever you want, if you're currently working but you want to be able to, create your own business, or I am currently starting up my business, or I am currently, say for example, I'm currently doing too many hours in my business and I want to be only working 4 hours a week, whatever that might be. Fill that out. And I want to be doing this so that I can, whatever it is that you want to achieve, and enjoy the rewards of having more time, having more money, having more whatever that might be, right? This is all really specific to you. So to do this, what must you do? Going back to that slide before, what do you have to do? So plug that in. What's the number one thing that you need to do? And my strategic focus should be, going back to your growth pyramid, if it's stage 1, I should be doing more video so that I can create more awareness in the market. Or I should focus on blocking out some time to actually go through and write out some processes. Or I should sit down and write out my workflow on this one task that I do repeatedly, so that the next step is I can have someone repeat that and do that without me. So that's the next part, which this will allow me to. Will it allow you to step away from the low value stuff and focus purely on the high value tasks? And to do that, I must, number one, work out my workflow, my end-to-end workflow. For example, if we're talking about systems, I must work out my end-to-end workflow. Number two, create the processes around it. Number three, create the training videos or checklists or whatever. This means I can build a system for my team and hire my next EA for it, or hire another buyer's agent, or hire another team member, wherever that might be. What will this do? This will save me how many hours in my business? Might be 10 hours, so that I can focus on my business. I can focus on my health. I can focus on my children, my partner, focus on other things, more charitable work. So really create this plan for yourself, which is it's personal, right? So whoever it is, you're going to be something different. You're going to have a different focus. But the whole point is to be able to put this up so that for the next 90 days, you can get absolutely clear on, this is my direction, and I'm not going to pull away from that until I finish all of these and I've achieved that. That cool? Are there any specific questions that you had? Richard, I know you had some questions around particular tasks. Did you want me to address that as well?
No, unless you've got any general comments, Cheryl, on, hey, we've got specialists in this, that. I know you've got social media, maybe some people that are good at off-market sites, just checking block dimensions, frontages, criteria, zoning.
Yeah. So are you talking specifically about the champions in the Growth Hub?
Yes.
And what they're able to do? Okay. So I'll run briefly. So where we're really quite property focused. So what we did not long ago, within the last year, is we actually have a training program specifically for property assistants. And what that involves is the training is around Australian property, how to help either buyers agents, developers, property investment consultants, anyone in the property space. And that's from how to use RP data, for example, like the tools of RP data, Price Finder, even Archistar as well. We teach them on understanding what do you mean by zoning, what sort of zoning, land size. So that they can, when they're looking at property in Australia, they get an idea of, oh, okay, this is a townhouse as opposed to a standalone house, as opposed to a duplex. Because even these things which we take for granted, that we understand what a duplex looks like, when you're talking about someone who's never seen a property in Australia before, like there's a level of upskilling that needs to happen there. So yes, they're able to create short list of properties. So we do have assistants that will help developers with, again, this is the criteria. Can you shortlist all the properties that fit this criteria and mail merge, send letters out, for example? So we've got there are quite a few clients that do that. For buyers agents, a similar sort of thing. This is the client's buyer brief. Can you please shortlist the properties that are either online or through our database of contacts? Send it out to them. This is the buyer brief. What do you have? They get a whole lot of responses to that email, and the champion does a whole lot of shortlisting so that they can sort of basically deliver the top 3 or top 5 properties. So they've gone through that level of training there, and there's quite a bit of that property stuff that's involved in there, even helping with property reports and all. So it really just comes down to where in your business that you sort of feel that you might want to delegate to someone. Do the general social media, can do social media. Again, it's like understanding the core types of tasks that you want someone to do. We sort of do a little bit of a matching. All right, what does your business need? Who is the type of person that needs to be able to execute that? So the main thing is that you're able to take away some, good strategies and action plans from here and just apply it to your business and keep it moving forward. Thank you. Thank you very much for being here, guys.